cannot solve everything, but try your best. If I can do it, if this is something I can solve, I will solve it. If this is something I cannot, well, I mean, c'est la vie, you know. But try to find the source of inadequacy and try to work towards feeling less inadequate. I think, yeah, those are my...
Oh, that's excellent. Please eat first. Sometimes it's just,
Yes.
you are just hungry.
To have the energy to deal with your problems.
Thank you. No, that's excellent. First eat. It takes me to that other question. I know it's a lot mostly for the women's side, where I want you, Anita, to walk us through it for yourself. You're a married woman, you have a kid or kids, maybe planning to do more, right? Work-life balance. I know a lot of you think about it. How do you do it? How is it important that you balance your work and your life to make you better or good at what you do?
All right, thank you. So when you speak about work-life balance, generally, when you look up definition and all of that, it's about work, basically having more like a balance. So you have a skill, then you have work on one side, then you have every other thing, your family, your hobbies, if you're religious, your church or your mosque, everything else lumped up on the other side. And usually, people explain it to mean having sufficient or equal time between the two. But I believe work-life balance, there's no straight cut when it comes to that. You have to find your fit and your balance. Now, for some people, work-life balance is basically, okay, I go to work 8 to 5. I come home, and then I leave work at work, and I have home. I have my children, I have my family. So for me, I have been married for almost 5 years. I have 2 toddlers. One is 4 and the other is just about a year and a half. So, I mean, if you have experience with having babies, you probably don't, but you can read up. You know that you have to probably breastfeed for the first 6 months compulsory, as in if you choose to. But in Ghana, your leave or maternity leave is just 3 months. So 3 months, you can't take your baby to work. You just can't in a lot of companies. So you need to find what works for you. For me, I chose to send my children to daycare because that worked for me. It worked better than getting help at home. So that's what I did. But for you, it might be very different. Now, when I started working, I won't deny the fact that it was initially challenging to find a routine that worked for me. I started work after my first child. I think normally for most women who have children, the first child is the shocker. Like you have the first child, and then you realize, oh my God, this is what womanhood and motherhood is all about. After I started work, I resumed work straight after my son was born. I was thrown into almost a new role, operations manager. We had a vessel, things were busy, and funny enough, just at the same time, we had a second client coming to us asking us to do another job. So I was managing operations for 2 separate vessels at that time. Like I had to deal with, I can mention, I had to deal with Tallow on one side and I had to deal with E&I on another side. So it was hectic, no 2 ways about it. So I mean, fast track down over the years, what I've come to realize is, for me, work-life balance is not spending 8 to 5 at work. I currently have a very flexible work schedule in that I work mostly from home, but you see me working very intensely, probably from morning till like 12. And then kids come from school, so I get busy again. And then after they go to bed, that's when I do a lot of the intense reading related to my work. So I had one of my clients actually telling me he thinks I'm just nocturnal because I answer a lot of his emails at night. Now, this this is not to say that having a schedule like that will not affect your mental health. Your mental health is also important, and it's part of ensuring that you have a good work-life balance. So you need to be able to know when to break away from work. Give yourself, like the other speaker said, give yourself grace. Just relax. Sometimes you don't have to be doing something. You can just take a break from all the noise at work, from all the noise at home, and just breathe. Give yourself some time to rest, get your thinking back on track, and then zoom in again. So for me, I would say those are the main things that I can highlight about my personal work-life balance. Now, I think it's important to understand how work-life balance affects us. Now, if you are not able to prioritize, because that's what work-life balance is, it is prioritizing. If you're not able to prioritize at every point in time, say, okay, family or work, which one should I take? Should I go on a vacation? Should I do this? If you're not able to prioritize and know what to do at every point in time, what happens is that you wear yourself out. You're stressed out, and then it affects your work as well. So you're going to a board meeting, and then you're thinking about, I had this issue at home, and I'm deeply troubled by it. No. When that happens, it affects your output greatly. I have met people in the industry who have not been able to function fully to their full capacity because they had issues in their private life. And it goes without saying. I mean, there have been several researchers out there that point to the fact that it's important to have a balance on the other side so that your work can actually flourish. So yeah, that's what I would like to say about it. Thank you.
Well, you guys heard all that. It's not easy. That's what everyone is telling you. But you have to do it. You can't run away from it. You see, some of us, Dr. Victor is different. He sees it differently. Some of us, we like money, so we like to work more. We work extra hours because we know what it does. Some people cannot do that. They don't have the mental capacity to do that. You need to understand yourself. And as Eve said, give yourself grace. Don't, if you break, let me tell you one little secret. They will replace you very quickly. Oh, yeah, they will. They will replace you very quickly. So give yourself grace. So now it takes me to Joe. This on the backs of somebody feeling inadequate and somebody trying to juggle between work-life balance and all that. But I know as a human being, there is a time when you know it is enough. You need to stop. When do you know you're in a company, you just know, listen, you need to move. Or you are doing something, it's just not working for you. You need to move on. When do you know that this is it and it's my time to move on? Because in everything, you need to know when to stop. As a human being, it's not working for you. You need to stop. Or you need to change your strategy. When do you know this?
All right, thank you. So having changed up twice, I think I have a bit of insight to share. So there's something that one of my mentors taught me, and I will share that with you, right? It is live a life of no regrets, okay? Live a life of no regrets. So if someone comes to me and says, I'm struggling in my workplace, I think it's time for a new job, the very first question I would ask is, are you giving off your best? Okay, because many times, the reason for the challenges that you are facing, which makes you feel like it's time for you to move on, is simply because you as a person are not working to the standards that are required of you. If you're a poor performer, right, if you don't give off your best, if you are not reliable, if your work doesn't meet the right standards, and then you feel that every time there's an opportunity, some other people are being given a chance. You feel your boss doesn't like you. You feel you are being passed off for promotions. You feel inadequate. It might just be because the reality is that you are inadequate in terms of your output, not as a person, but in terms of what your work is about. So the very first question I'll ask you is, are you giving off your best? Now, assuming that the answer to that question is yes, I am giving off my best, then we'll go into what exactly were you looking for in the first place when you joined that organization, right? Because if, for example, you are aiming to be a member of the school's science and math quiz team, but you are reading general arts, I mean, I'm not sure how you will ever get to that point where you are going to be fulfilled, right? So it goes back to some of the things that we've spoken about before, about having the right plan, having the right input into the plan. Okay, you will know it is time to move. Generally, assuming that the answers to these questions are yes, you are giving off your best, you are in the right place. When your responsibilities, or when the opportunity for growth and responsibilities begin to shrink, right? So when you go into the corporate world, I would say that the twin aspect of what Dr. Victor mentioned before has to do with the growth opportunity that you have are indicator of whether or not you are going to be able to do well where you are, whether or not you should stay where you are. Because like I said, you are going to be paid, honored, celebrated for the problems you solve. And so if you don't have those opportunities to grow, if you join in one role, and 10 years later, you are in the exact same role, doing the exact same thing, you've probably been there far too long, right? Your work should cause you to grow. Your capacity to handle things should increase. I mean, I remember when Derek was in school. We were in school together in Kent University. When he finished, he went to, I think, Expro, was it? When he went, today I find out he was greasing tools. I was also greasing tools in the shop floor in Schlumberger, right? But then we went through, right, over the years, from training engineers. I broke out to become an engineer. So you become a field engineer, you become a senior field engineer, you become a general field engineer. Then you either become a field service manager or you move into some other role. I went to facilities management. I started with one base, then I had two bases, then I had a country, then I had West Africa, right? And then you get to a point where it's like there doesn't seem to be much opportunity for you to go beyond. At that point, I realized it is time for me to move. So I moved into something else where there were also some opportunities. It was at a point it became limited. And then I said, okay, the plan, right? It's time for me to give back. So I moved into public service, which is where I am now. And there are opportunities for growth. We are trying to build a lot through, PhD agency where I work with. And I will continue to be here so long as I have those opportunities to grow. So that is more of a prescriptive way of saying it, that you look at the opportunities to grow, right? Not chasing after titles. Your title may not change, but maybe you started with one well as a well development lead. Now, the country has, they're planning to drill 10 wells, and they bring someone else to do the remaining 9 wells. Are you giving off your best? If you are, and you are not given the opportunity to now handle 2 or 3 wells instead of 1, maybe it's time for you to move from Talo to ENI. So that is how I would put it. First of all, give off your best so that you don't have any regrets. Not that you leave and find out that, if I had actually been coming to work on time and been doing a little bit more, I would have gotten those opportunities. If you give off your best and you have no regrets, you can actually move with no regrets. Thank you.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. Progress is important because you need to know whether you've outgrown where you are, or you are too big for where you are, or you are too small for where you are. You need to always move. It's very, 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 very important. So for the entrepreneurs here, the guys that when Joe was speaking earlier on, you'll be amazed that there are people sitting next to you. They are the guys who are going to be setting up the companies you're going to be working with and stuff like that. Don't always set yourself up on, I want to work with the Talos or the ENIs or stuff like that. Some of you have very brilliant ideas that you can work with and use. So that brings me to Dr. Victor. So I'm a student.